Welcome to more World of Warplanes content from the Noble Q, and in this video I'm going to take a look at the JL-1A-37 Shenyang, the Chinese Tier 8 premium fighter, and help you decide whether you might like to add it to your hangar or not. Here's the JL-1A-37 Shenyang, not quite in the hangar, on the tarmac outside it, resplendent in a chrome livery. This is a paper plane, never actually existed. It was based, in theory, on a trainer that the Chinese had developed from Soviet-era designs, but never made it into development. So if we take a look at it in the actual hangar and quickly look at it in a stock configuration, the slots that you've got available immediately are in the cockpit, the airframe, two for the engine, one is locked for the forward firing weapon, consumables, almost the same, except that the ammunition slot is available for the guns, but one of the engine slots is locked. As far as the pilot skills are concerned, in this particular case, I've trained up the pilot to have these skills. Aerodynamics expert, I would say, definitely comes first, probably engine guru or one next, then marksman one. In this particular case, I've got aerobatics expert as well, and firefighter. Could take those off and probably get Engine Guru 2 for more speed, or possibly Marksman 2 for more accuracy. The two primary assets of this plane being the speed and the gunnery. Now, if we just pop it into specialist configuration, you can see how I've set this up. And I've put a gun sight in the cockpit, polished skin for extra speed on the airframe, uprated engine for more speed again, but then a lightweight engine for a little bit more maneuverability. And then here, in the forward firing weapon slot, I've chosen to put the ultimate reinforced bolt carriers. That's not to say the other two choices, which are long gun barrels for a range of fire and rate of fire, aren't worth considering. I like this one because it gives me bonus characteristics that I think are important. 10% cooldown rate, more accuracy, and greater burst length. And some of the other bonus characteristics, if you choose to reassemble this equipment, I think are actually worth having as well. Quickly look, there's actually more cooldown that you can get, for instance, and you might consider having that. As far as consumables are concerned, this plane is very prone to fire, mandatory to have a fire extinguisher. That's part of the reason why I've got one of the firefighting skills in the pilot as well. Pneumatic control assist for a bit more maneuverability. Not that you want to be in a dogfight with this, but if you happen to be against another Shenyang, maybe that will be of some use. Engine cooling, definitely want to have as much boosters available as possible. Could consider putting in the engine oil here. For a little bit more speed, I've put the engine restart in because having your engine shot out when you're being chased, it means near certain death. And then universal ammunition. I never use gold ammunition. So that's a quick look at the plane in the hangar. I think we ought to go and take a look at the numbers. Don't worry, you can either skip the numbers section by using the links below, but I'm not going to go through it exhaustively. I'm going to try my best to summarize fairly quickly. So here are the numbers. And we're comparing the JL-1A-37 Shenyang to all the other Tier 8 fighters. There are a lot of them, so we're not going to be doing an exhaustive comparison aircraft by aircraft, you'll be glad to hear. We'll just try and bring out the main points. Very quickly, in column C and D, you'll find the Shenyang, and then you'll find all the other Tier 8 fighters in two columns off to the right. The main attributes, the ones you can see in the Hangar UI, are down the left here, with all the necessary figures in the body of the spreadsheet. As usual, the configuration is stock. Ordnance is irrelevant here. None of the fighters carry ordnance, of course. No equipment, no pilot, all top modules. Green on the sheet is best in class, light blue, second best, light purple, third best in class, and anything coloured in gold is a premium or reward aircraft, as indeed this Shenyang is. So, let's take a look at the gun armament, and immediately it looks like very good news. Perhaps a little bit surprisingly, the cumulative DPS is the best in class, by some distance as well. You just scroll across here, you'll see what I mean. Nothing else even in 500. And that may surprise some of you knowing about the existence of, say, the TA-152 and other heavy-hitting aircraft. However, there is an important drawback. 41% of your DPS comes from a fairly short-range 37mm cannon, which means that if you go head-on with aircraft, for quite a period of time, they will be doing more damage to you than you can do to them. These two 23mm cannons are exactly the same as the ones on the F-15 and several of the other aircraft here, and the damage output is exactly the same. So only 340. Bear that in mind, head-ons may not go as well as you think, even though in theory you've got this big DPS. And of course the hidden statistic that you can't see, none of us can, is the overheat and cooling cycle. It's quite short, which means that your burst damage isn't the greatest, and you also need to try and manage your cooling cycle any way you can, including by perhaps reassembling pieces for suitable equipment. The survivability of the aircraft is frankly poor, probably not even as, probably worse than these numbers tend to express. The hit points seem quite decent at 360, but the damage resistance is pretty average, and the fire resistance is frankly awful. This is a fragile aircraft. Try not to get shot in it, and accept that if you play it the way I do, which is aggressively, you're probably going to lose this aircraft 2 or 3 times in the course of a battle as you try and do enough to win that battle. It's just the way of things with this plane, in my opinion. Airspeed, it's pretty good news. This is a fast aircraft, as you might expect. However, it has several competitors amongst the fighters. The Horton is an obvious one. The J-8M, in theory, is slightly slower, but of course, the J-8M will probably, when engaging you, or being engaged by you, will use boost, and then it will be an awful lot faster. There's something else you need to note about the Horton and the J-8M, which I'll come back to in a moment or two when we talk about manoeuvrability. And the X-15C, a bit of an outlier, big heavier aircraft, but still a fighter, is nearly as fast as well. The P-80A is fast. The Vampire under boost is fast. These are all strong counters to this aircraft, and you need to be very aware of them in the battles that you fight. So if we do talk about manoeuvrability, I'm afraid the Shenyang handles like a cow. Its definite advantage are its guns. Its altitude performance to a degree, although that's not as good as it should be. We'll come on to that in a moment. And you do not want to be turn fighting in this. And in theory, although you can outturn something like a Horton 229 and a J-8M, these figures are close enough that if the Horton or the J-8M have what I might call a surprise manoeuvrability build, they will outturn you if you have a speed build. So be aware of that. Not all is as it seems. Everything else amongst the fighters will outturn you. And that will tell you straight away that your tactic with this aircraft will be to hit hard with the guns and boost away, either diving or climbing or just in a straight line if you can. You should not turn and face your opponent. You should either go off and do something else, or put a large amount of distance between yourself and that opponent before you think about coming back and attacking him. And bear in mind, the comment I made about being careful about head-ons applies if you turn to attack an opponent you've just fired at, because probably he will have turned to try and engage you if he can. Altitude performance is decent without being stellar. Clearly much less than the J-8M, which is an outlier here, but also less than several of the other aircraft. And the ones that I mentioned as a counter previously, with the possible exception of the Vampire, will all compete with you effectively at altitude. I didn't mention the airspeed, rather the dive speed. That is pretty good at 590. That offers you an opportunity to escape from aircraft, especially if you have boost and engine cooling available. Likewise, the climb rate is pretty decent as well. That might offer you an escape route, particularly from the turn fighters. What these numbers suggest to me is that the JL-1A-37 Shenyang is unequivocally a high-energy fighter. And indeed, if you can isolate targets that are in a low-energy configuration, perhaps at the top of a climb where they're about to stall, or at the slowest point of a tight turn, it's even a boom and zoom aircraft, provided you can get close enough to deploy the 37mm cannon. And what do I mean by a high-energy fighter? Well, roughly it would be like this. You want to try and keep this one in a group with your teammates if you can. You want to try and keep the aircraft generally high and fast, staying off the flaps for the most part. Pick those low-energy targets if you can. Hit them hard with the weapons. Boost away, either up or down, and move on to probably other targets. or only return after you've put a lot of distance between yourself and the target you've just hit. And bear in mind what I said about head-ons, they don't necessarily go as well for you as you might expect with that apparently high DPS. Okay, I think that's enough on the numbers. Let's go and see this plane in action in some aggressive gameplay. Here we are on the Alpine Gambit map. It's the collision variant, and it's a kind of a squashed 5 spots of a die shape. And in the centre there's a military base, which is strategically and tactically the most important sector by far. The standard 3 resources every 5 seconds, and of course it releases rockets at enemy sectors to help you flip them. There are a pair of repair air bases at the periphery, quite useful insofar as you can spawn there rather than the original spawn. Select a new aircraft of the same tier once you're destroyed, or more likely, in my case anyway, get your aircraft fully repaired. But because at the periphery, they're not quite as useful as they might otherwise be. And then making up the rest of the sectors, we have the 2 garrisons, 3 resources every 5 seconds as usual. Looking at the order of battle, it's quite a favourable setup for me. I'm the only tier 8 human player in my Shenyang. I've got another high altitude fighter, the P-51D, on my team, and a Spitfire 9. The enemy has the 3 tier 7s, a BF-109G, which is quite a tricky aircraft, but also the excellent I-220 and the Meteor 1. Now, before I go into the battle, I will just say that I spent a couple of days reacquainting myself with this aircraft because I found it hard to fly after 3 years of not having used it. And there's a warning there. If you're not used to high energy tactical fighting and you're not used to tier 8, you will struggle in this aircraft. So bear that in mind if you're thinking about purchasing it. So what I found works for me with this aircraft is to fly it aggressively. Try and do as much damage as possible in the knowledge that as it's so fragile and it's not a turn fighter, you're going to lose this aircraft possibly multiple times a game. So make each death of your aircraft worth a lot to your team. And straight away we're going to go for the strategically and tactically important military base in the centre. Tactically important because, of course, it's the gateway to all the other sectors, or provides easy access to them. Strategically, it fires those rockets, of course. And we're looking for the heavies, we're looking for incoming aircraft. Set about one of the air defence aircraft. I'm going to ignore the bomber. Here's another tip for you: try not to get behind good health bombers in this aircraft. They will shoot you down with their tail gunners, or at least do substantial damage to you. I got engaged by an enemy heavy. That I can outturn, so I'm going to try and chase it down. You'll see I'm managing those cannons very carefully, trying not to overheat. They're quite tricky to land anyway. Mixed armament on this aircraft exposes you to the problem of shells with different velocities coming out of the guns, so your lead is different from each of them, and unless you're very close, you're likely to hit with either the 23mm or the 37mm, but not both. I would suggest you try and hit with the 37mm, that's the thing that does the most damage. Just avoid flying into the back of my own player there. Continue to seek out targets, find an air defence aircraft, and by destroying that, I flip the base. And we're 2 sectors off, but we've got the important sector, now we need to try and hold on to it if we possibly can. I'm looking for isolated targets. I see the BF-109G, and I decide that if I can get a good attack in on him, I'm likely to eliminate him. And that's exactly what happens, although I only got the assistance on that in the end. That brings me into the compass of the ground attackers, so I do some significant damage to one of them. Go over the top so I can shoot at the softer upper parts. Try to stay off the flaps as much as possible, and he blows up. Because I'm at fairly low altitude and I have an opportunity to flip a garrison, I try and set about one of the air defence fighters. And rather stubbornly it keeps avoiding my shots. Eventually I land the 37mm cannon, and in destroying it I flip the sector, and now we're 3-1 up. Need to get back to the centre. I'll have a look around to see if there's anything I want to shoot first. as you can see, that head-on did significant damage to me, and that was a Tier 7 BF-109G. Yes, it has a big cannon of its own, but there's the warning. If you go head-on, you'll lose a lot of your health probably. Come back for the IL-8. Swoop up. Trying to get at the less armoured top sections. Didn't put enough distance between myself and the aircraft there. I need to be further away so I can have a longer attack. But I still need to keep the 37mm in range, so that means about 2,000 feet. And this time a better attack results in the death of the IL-8. I was engaged here. So I choose to use the tactic of climbing up under boost, and I use my engine cooling to ensure it. I'm up at 8,000 feet before I even consider turning to have a look at what was attacking me. And there it is at 6,000, 7,000 feet below me. It's the BF-109G again. I decide I'm not going to go for it. I need to try and get this bomber out. And this is risky. I'm on half health. The bomber is good health, and this isn't something I'd really want to do if I could avoid doing it. However, I felt that we were going to lose the military base if I didn't. I'm really not comfortable about chasing this bomber either, but again, I feel I have to. We're 3 sectors to 2 down. We really can't afford to lose this military base if we can avoid it. Volleys of 3 shots. I know he's flown out of the sector, but I simply don't want to waste time. I need to get back to the sector, so I kill him anyway and go and see if I can engage and defend the sector by shooting down something else. Badly damaged the Sea Fang, and this is a tactical error. I actually turned for him. I shouldn't have. As it happened, because I've got his engine, I got away with it. And the reason I felt that I needed to make the tactical error is because I felt we were on the verge of losing this sector, and in fact we did. I didn't kill the Sea Fang quickly enough, and now we're in a bit of trouble. It looks like we could be 4 sectors to 1 down shortly, but as I say that, we capture a sector and we go back up to 3-2. So now I'm looking for targets of opportunity to see if I can get this sector. The Hornet is isolated, and in fact it wasn't a capture, that was an attempt at a defence which has also failed, and the enemy is making a good fist of this. I know there are a lot of red aircraft at that sector, so I fly away from them. The only thing that's available to me is the bomber, so for the 3rd time in the game I chase down a bomber. If this was a human bomber, I would come off very badly. As it is, it's a bot, and I've still very nearly lost all my health. I'm forced to break away, and I fly straight into 2 fighters. I do as much damage as I can to the I-220, the preferential target there, and for the first time I lose my aircraft. So here we spawn back in. 10,000 personal points on the first sortie in this aircraft. I'm satisfied with that. I now need to be careful because the squall line is already cut in, and here we catch the Sea Fang in a, relative to me, low energy configuration, and I'm able to eliminate him straight away. And immediately I'm able to get on the tail of the PO-156 as well. Some careful firing as he tries to evade. Finally I get him down. So my aim is now to protect the central military base, and if we keep hold of that, we should be able to win this game, although it's still very tight. We're actually behind by 30 odd points. I'm able to eliminate a Tempest, which is very low health, swoop upwards, find the Meteor not paying attention, and I choose to overheat my guns because I know that I can shoot him down and I've got nothing else I need the guns for a little while. After that they'll cool down again. That eliminates the Meteor. We're still 3 sectors to 2 up, At this point I'm feeling that the game is beginning to swing our way, but it's still on a knife edge in terms of the numbers. So I feel that another sector is necessary to seal the deal, as it were, and I fly towards the garrison in the hope that I can flip it for our team. I realise that we've got a fighter in amongst the air defence aircraft. I do it some damage and then I fly away as fast as possible. No turn fighting, I've learned my lesson. And so I decide to go to the airbase and see if I can do some work there. Nothing doing, I've got enough distance, so I come back to face the aircraft. And smart player realised what was going to happen, decided to take evasive action. This is the I-220 if I'm not mistaken. And eventually I fly past him with my speed. And I give up on trying to kill him. I climb. And in the meantime, my team has been doing a good job of trying to get rid of the rest of the team. And now it's just this one aircraft that I was shooting at left. I select him out. He's managed to fully repair, but I go for it anyway. I destroy him. That gets me the crocodile, and then I land without my wheels. Don't do this at home, kids. But that's a reasonably good game in the JL-1A-37 Shenyang with the Winged Legend and a crocodile. I'm quite satisfied. So let's take a look at the outcome of this battle. A 3 chevron battle, grade 3 fighter, 339,991 credits, or silver if you prefer. Now, 113,000 of that approximately are due to the premium account bonus, but as you can see, for what is only a decent battle, not a particularly good one, the credit earnings are very good. That's the gross figure, and from that we're going to take away 9,400 credits, I believe, just for repairs, because I'm using prepaid consumables. 7,151 aircraft experience with bonuses, and 357 free experience with bonuses. 2 tokens, both for first medals of the day, the Koshadub and the Winged Legend. Turning to the personal score tab, we can see that none of the class-specific missions were completed. 2 of them were coming close, but this one here, the 140 attacking capture points, is the one that let us down in terms of obtaining more chevrons than we did. Nevertheless, it's 17,260 personal points with 2 sectors captured, 14 aerial targets destroyed, a rather healthy 8,086 damage to aerial targets with 30 critical hits, showing what that 37mm cannon can do. Lost the aircraft twice, hence the repair cost we saw on the previous message box. 380 capture points received, not too bad, but only 140 of those were for attacking, and that's all that counts towards the chevrons in a fighter. Turning to the team score tab, we can see that was enough for first place for my team, both by chevrons and indeed by personal points. Good contribution from the Spitfire 9 there. Tricky playing the P-51D and also down tiered, can't really complain about that score. On the enemy side, the Meteor 1 put himself about a bit to pretty good effect. The I-220 could have probably hoped for a bit more there, and it looks as if the BF-109G was really struggling down tier. Also a difficult aircraft, to be fair. So, now you've seen what the JL-1A-37 Shenyang can do in battle, let's see how you can obtain it. And here's the bundle on offer in the premium shop at the moment, the Sky Dragon bundle. And it costs you £37.07, which is the same as at the time of making this video, €43.33, or $52.92 US. And for that you get the plane, you get a 100% trained crew with 8 free skill points. You probably, as a newer player, don't have an 8 skill point Chinese pilot, so that could be quite useful, I suppose. The paint scheme, it's a chrome paint scheme which increases the speed of the aircraft, and that's worth mounting in my opinion. And a hangar slot, and then as a bonus, 5 steel supply crates. I want to talk about these in a moment, but what I will point out is that a regular aircraft on its own at Tier 8, a premium aircraft, will cost you around this kind of money, so at first you might think you're getting these for free. But hang on, there's more to this. These steel supply crates are one of at least 4 flavours of loot box in World of Warplanes, to my knowledge. Well, again, you may be thinking, well, I'm getting it for free, it's not an issue. Well, I'm afraid that it is. The PEGI rating in Europe for World of Warplanes and its sister titles is 7, which means this game is deemed suitable for play by 7-year-olds. And I don't know that Wargaming does anything to vet the age of the people that download and play this game. In the US, the equivalent is the ESRB rating. I believe that stands for Entertainment Software Rating Board. And there, I think the equivalent rating is for 13-year-olds, still minors. The presence of steel supply crates in a bundle like this normalizes them, makes them usual, makes people expect them, including children. Worse, and also, children could pester their parents to buy an aircraft like this in a game, and possibly some parents will, without ever realizing that they're also buying these gambling crates and normalizing them for their child. I'm pretty sure that if the parent was asked to buy gambling crates, loot boxes for their child, they would say no, but they might miss them here. So it's not on Wargaming. You need to stop doing this, in my opinion. Worse, these crates, although they haven't had as much impact in World of Warplanes, they are beginning to be used as an aggressive monetization mechanism in some of the sister titles of this game, particularly in World of Warships. And as I speak, more than 20 of the most prominent community contributors in World of Warships have left the community contributor program in the last few days. And one of their main objections is the presence of these loot boxes and their use as a monetization tactic. New content in World of Warships is now beginning to be hidden in gambling boxes, in loot boxes, so you have no idea how much you're going to end up paying for that item, or indeed if you'll get it at all by buying loot boxes. This has also got to stop. If you want to know more about the departure of people like Little White Mouse, the most respected of the community contributors, I would suggest you go and look at videos that Mighty Jingles, also very well known and very well respected, and also less well-known community contributors, but still excellent, such as Charade Gaming, have made on the topic. Mighty Jingles makes the point that him walking out of the community contributor program and even players closing their wallets in protest at what Wargaming is up to probably won't make them change their habits, for reasons he explains in some detail. But what will make them change their habits is if they lose their PEGI rating and their ESRB rating, particularly if those ratings are revised so that only adults can play this game. And if you agree with me that these loot boxes have no place in a game like this, then I would recommend that you go to the PEGI site. A link is below this video, or the equivalent ESRB site, a link to which I will attempt to provide as well below this video, and complain about these boxes being marketed to 7-year-olds, the awareness of 7-year-olds of them being raised by shoddy tactics like including them in bundles like this, hiding content in loot boxes as is happening in World of Warships. And I'd be very happy if you made those complaints and get this game re-rated and make Wargaming think again about these odious things. They have no place in a game like this. That's the end of my look at the JL-1A-37 Shenyang, the Chinese Tier 8 premium fighter, and the bundle which is currently available in the World of Warplanes shop. As ever, the bundle is very expensive. Bear that in mind before you choose to buy this aircraft. You could get an entire game for the same money. What may help you make your decision if you're vacillating about it is the fact that this aircraft has limited value as a crew trainer. It cannot be reassigned to the major nations in the way that the European International premium aircraft can, which means you can only train Chinese pilots in it, and as no doubt you're aware, there is no Chinese tech tree, just these odd aircraft. Well, I hope all that has been of some value to you, and if it has, that you'll come back and see my future content. But until then, this is the Noble Q signing out.